Imagine you've spent months saving for this trip. You've booked the flights, coordinated the hotels, packed the bags, and told everyone you know you're going on a luxury cruise through the Arabian Gulf. And then, 3 days before departure, your phone buzzes. It's an email from your cruise line. The ship isn't coming. The season is over. And nobody can tell you exactly when or if any of it is coming back. This wasn't one unlucky traveler. This happened to thousands of passengers across multiple cruise lines all at the same time in one of the most expensive and carefully built winter cruise regions on the planet. And the real story, the one the cruise industry doesn't want you to sit with for too long, is far bigger than a wave of cancellations. Because what collapsed here wasn't just a travel season. Yes, it was the illusion that cruise travel is ever truly under control. If you want to understand exactly what happened, why it happened faster than anyone expected, and what it reveals about an industry that millions of people trust every single year, stay right here. Hit that subscribe button right now because we cover stories like this every week. The things happening beneath the surface of the travel industry that most media doesn't slow down enough to explain. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at a cruise itinerary the same way again. Why the Middle East mattered. To understand the full weight of what happened, you first have to understand why cruise lines were building their entire winter strategy around the Middle East in the first place. Most people, when they picture cruising, think of the Caribbean or the Mediterranean, blue water, island stops, cold drinks at sunset. But the cruise industry never stops moving. Ships don't sit in ports during the off-season, waiting for warmer weather to return. They rotate, they reposition, they follow the climate and the money. And the Arabian Gulf had become one of the most financially important winter cruise destinations on the face of the earth. Cities like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Doha had poured billions, not millions, billions, into port infrastructure. For cruise lines, this wasn't just a nice place to visit. It was a financial engine. But that only lasted as long as the world outside the ship stayed predictable. The world outside the ship stopped cooperating. The moment everything shifted, regional tension in the Middle East is not new. But there is a critical difference between background tension and active operational threat. US and Israeli strikes on Iran. Iran's response. It didn't just generate headlines. It created real, immediate disruption to the systems that cruise lines depend on. Airports in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, two of the busiest aviation hubs anywhere in the world, were directly affected. Flights were canceled or rerouted. Airspace became uncertain, and in some corridors, genuinely dangerous. MSC Cruises canceled the rest of its Middle East season entirely. Celestial Cruises dropped all remaining sailings. TUI halted its Arabian Gulf operations with no clear restart date. Arroyo Cruises ended its season weeks ahead of schedule. In the space of a few weeks, the entire winter cruise season in the Arabian Gulf had effectively collapsed, and the people who felt that collapse first, and most painfully, were the passengers. What passengers walked into. You were a traveler who did what travelers do. You planned ahead. You paid what you owed. And you trusted the system to deliver. You synchronized your flights with embarkation times. You booked hotels. You arranged time off work. And then the email arrived. Some passengers received their cancellation notice before they ever left home. That is devastating, but it is at least survivable. Now imagine you're not home. Imagine you're already mid-cruise when your ship suddenly changes its route without warning. Ports that were on the itinerary are quietly dropped. Or imagine you've just arrived at a port city, ready to catch your flight home, and you learn that the airport is operating at reduced capacity. The cruise industry's entire value proposition is built on a single word: control. That promise broke, and what replaced it, for thousands of passengers in real time, was confusion, uncertainty, financial stress, and the deeply disorienting experience of being far from home with a trip that no longer functioned the way it was supposed to. The invisible crisis. A cruise ship is one of the most operationally complex mobile objects ever built by human beings. It requires fresh supplies at every port: food, fuel, medical equipment, crew rotations, local contractors, insurance that recalculates constantly. And the ships themselves could not simply park somewhere and wait. Yet because stopping is not free. Every idle day is a financial wound. The decisions being made inside cruise line operations during those weeks were not routine. They were emergency decisions about ships worth hundreds of millions of dollars, about thousands of employees, about an entire season's revenue now at risk of becoming a liability. The collapse wasn't just felt in living rooms and email inboxes. It was felt deep inside the operational machinery of some of the largest travel companies on Earth. Why routes are more fragile. From the outside, from the passenger's side, a cruise route looks fixed. The ports are listed. The dates are locked in. That certainty feels reassuring. It's part of what you're paying for. But it is, in a very meaningful sense, an illusion. A cruise route is not just a map, and it is a living contract between the ship and an entire ecosystem of moving parts that all have to keep functioning simultaneously. The moment any one of those elements starts to fail, the entire route gets harder to maintain. If a flight gets canceled, you rebook. If a hotel becomes unavailable, you find another. But a cruise is a closed system. You can't rebook the ship. You can't substitute a different port. They sell you the experience of the itinerary. They don't sell you the risk model underneath it. And the Middle East cancellations pulled back that curtain in a way that hasn't been this visible in years. What this revealed: the cruise industry is built on a very specific promise. Board once, unpack once, let the world come to you. But the Middle East situation revealed something the industry rarely shows this clearly. And that promise of effortlessness is engineered, and the moment that system starts breaking, the effortlessness disappears. Ships may look powerful and self-contained, like floating cities that carry everything they need, but they don't. Once those foundations shift, the luxury image becomes extremely difficult to protect. Cruise travel is far more vulnerable than most passengers ever realize. And that vulnerability doesn't disappear just because the marketing doesn't mention it. What happened in the Arabian Gulf was not just travel news. It was a clear, undeniable demonstration of how quickly the entire architecture of a luxury travel experience can shift. Thousands of passengers felt that in a very personal way. In canceled flights, rerouted ships, and the disorienting experience of a perfectly organized vacation suddenly becoming something unrecognizable. A cruise can take you to almost anywhere in the world, but it cannot take you somewhere the world isn't willing to let you reach. And sometimes the most important question isn't where the ship is going. It's whether the conditions exist for it to get there at all. This is the story of what happens when they don't. If this gave you a new way of thinking about cruise travel, hit subscribe. Leave a comment telling me what surprised you most, and I'll see you in the next one.